Hey, this is Kathy McAllister. I have this absolutely adorable patriotic Statue of Liberty. This is a design by Sawdust Makery Designs. And I made this kind of as a miniature because I have a seasonal tree. So I like to change out the ornaments that I have hanging there. So this is I'll put a little hole in it and hang that. So the way that the pattern initially was designed is 3 pieces coming together that you glue together, and it's chunky, and because it's chunky it will stand when it's done. So those pieces have to be glued together. And this little America tag goes down here. So when I laser cut these in, for sale, I'm going to go ahead and paint these white, because if you take this and paint it after I've laser cut it, so you go ahead and paint the whole thing white, you're going to lose a lot of the definition of America. So I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and paint those pieces when I send them out, so you don't have to worry about that. So also we did kind of a granite style paint. You can really see it on the bigger piece more than on the little piece, to try to make this look a little bit like granite, and I'll show you how I did that. So the colors that I'm using today, the base of her gown is going to be in this aqua sky. Let me see if I can focus that in a little bit better. There you go. Now we're crooked. Okay, so aqua sky, and we'll highlight with crystal blue and shade with Laguna. So you see how nice, how complementary those 3 colors are. And of course you can use whatever kind of colors you want. You don't even have to go with blue. It's that was the color combination that I was feeling. The granite is going to be made with neutral gray, shaded with zinc, but I will show different ways of doing the granite. And the flesh, the little bits of the hands and everything, are done with either natural buff or sugared peach, or whatever color combination you want, and highlighted with coral cloud to give it a bit of color, shade it with some warm beige. So those are some of the initial colors that I used. On these chunky pieces, I cut out 4 little hands, and the reason why is there's one little hand that's going to go here. You actually need 3 hands, which that doesn't seem physically possible, but that the 3rd hand is going to be going underneath here to prop this book up, and then you have to come back with the other hand there. So this, once you have this glued in place, you don't need a hand underneath there. I mean, you certainly could use the 4th piece if you wanted to and stick it underneath there. So, and one thing I did, I will ship out these laser pieces with this little protective piece, because it makes it easier to paint the little hands, because they just want to run all over the place. But if you can just slap paint right on the top of that, it's just easier to paint them. So that just kind of holds them in place while you're painting. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today, the chunky Statue of Liberty. I'm going to start by gluing these 3 pieces together. Sometimes I'll do that process last, but I think in this case it probably is easier just to go ahead and glue them. And you need to make sure that when you glue them, you know, that you're smooth and level on the bottom. So you'll do 2 pieces at a time and then add the third one in. So I'm going to do the top 2 pieces first. And I'm going to use my Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear Adhesive because it sets up really fast. It's extremely tough and permanent, so it works very, very well with laser pieces. So just make sure you got your sides the right way around. And I try to spend a lot of quality time with this to make sure that I get it really spot on. I really nurse it into place. If you get a lot of glue oozing out the sides, just grab a baby wipe. And you can use a clip if you want to help you hold these in place. Let's see if I've got one handy. No, I don't. So if you have a big clip, it sometimes helps you holding these pieces together. I've also had situations where I've put a clip on and it's kind of pushed them out of position too, so you just need to be careful. So I was going to show you how I made this granite looking piece here. So it's going to be on the crown and the book and the torch. So I was going to show you how I did that. This is 1 coat of the neutral gray, and you need at least 2 good coats. Let it dry, or dry it with a heat tool in between each coat. So for part of the crown, which is this piece right here, you can add it to the granite mix as well, but you want to go ahead and pat on with a sponge or with a brush. You want to pat on 2 coats of the neutral gray as well. Okay, the coverage on that looks pretty good. So, first thing you want to do is you want to take some of the neutral gray again, and you want to add in a little bit of titanium white, snow white. So it's not, I guess it's I guess it's pretty much 1-to-1 on the amount of white versus gray. And whatever brush you like to use to do your splatter. Let's see if I can find mine, what I was using the other day. Okay, so you want it to be nice and watery when you splatter. Of course, with the size of this piece that I'm doing, I've got way too much paint just to show you this tiny amount. So you want to go ahead and splatter that. Let me just, that's pretty wet. Let me take some of that out. Okay, so that's the gray and the white mixture. And then you want to come back with just the Snow White. And again, get that pretty watery. And I didn't clean my brush, so there is some gray still left in here, and that's fine. If you want it to be super white, you can wash out your brush, but it isn't necessary. So once you get the amount of splatter in there that you're happy with, there you've got your granite look. So I'm going to highlight these pieces of granite with the zinc. And you can see I've got all of this granite. So my plan was to come back with marigold here, marigold and warm sunset here. A hand is going to go over this. So, but I'm going to go ahead first and shade. And again, I'm shading with zinc. So I'm using an angled brush. I'm dipping the toe into the zinc. There's a little bit of moisture in my brush. I actually don't think I have enough moisture in my brush, but I'll just do a few strokes first and then worry about it. So on the tips of the crown, you can shade on one side or both sides of the prongs. That's up to you. And if you want something darker, you know, you can always use a lamp black. Zinc is pretty dark, but if you want to go darker, you can use like a lamp black or a Payne's gray. So zinc is kind of a very subtle sort of gray up against the neutral gray. So the little hand is going to go here, so it's holding the torch right there. And you can go back and reinforce the gray if you want. And I'm looking at where this piece goes, so I'm gonna shade right here. So I just kind of hold the piece in place and shade where that will go. So these are pretty small, you know, pieces, not as small as this, of course, but still it helps bring your pieces to life if you can do some shading and some highlighting. Now, I don't know on this whether I want to do much highlighting, only because it's going to wipe out my granite. So I'm of two minds. I don't know how much I want to do. I did a little bit of highlighting on this piece, but you can see it just kind of wipes out the granite then. So that's up to you. If you want to highlight, you can use a color like slate gray, which is lighter than the neutral. So I think that's what I used on the smaller one, the slate gray, for highlighting. And you would do that by dry brushing highlights. So on the book, you've got the hand that's going to be there. So that's a right hand. So if you want to be really precise about your shading, you would put the hand in place and kind of shade around it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can just kind of dab it into place. If you want the shading to be darker, then you can reinforce it with a second coat of shading. And I just shade it down this side, the left side of these pieces. So you can shade both sides, but I think that's got enough shading for me. I'm good with that. Okay, so now I'm going to come back with marigold over the top of my gray here and here. And of course you can use whatever color you want for the hair. You can see whether 2 coats is going to do it on the marigold. Since you're going over the gray, if you end up having to do 3 coats to get coverage, and just check it and see. My brush is a little watery, so I'm probably going to need a little bit more than just 2 coats, because this is very watery, this first coat. You can always go back and add in more shading if you feel like you need it. I did not do shading on the crown piece. You could, if you wanted just to do across the top or something. Like that, just a very light touch of shade. Alright, more marigold. I'm just using my angled brush because that's what I've got out. Normally I would use a flat brush on this, but an angled brush works just fine. was trying not to completely lose the little lines here, but it's kind of a lost cause. So you can tell we're shading with different colors. So this is supposed to represent a flame. So I'm using warm sunset. You can use different oranges for that. You could even put in a little bit of red if you wanted. And then the hair, I'm using honey brown, which is this honey brown. Yep, I got way too much honey brown here. I just needed a tiny little shade, and I got a whole dollop of paint. Oh well. So, pretty simple to shade on the hair. Okay, and a bit of warm sunset. That's a little bit better. I hate wasting paint. Alright, so I'm just going to bring a little bit of the flame going up there, and then I'm going to follow it up there. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to follow it up that line. There we go. Perfect-ish. So there's a little bit of soot from the laser cutter, and baby wipes are very good at wiping that off. Of course, I'm also taking a little, I should have done that before I did my shading. I'm going to come back with a little bit of shading. So you can remove that with baby wipes. The soot comes off. Mostly. I mean, some of it does stay behind. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to decide not to use the highlight of the slate gray, but if you feel like you want just a little bit of highlight in the center areas of this, you can do that. I like the effect of the granite as it is. I don't know, maybe that crown, but if I put any highlight in there, it will completely wipe out that granite effect I've got going on, so I'm just going to leave it. Okay, so those pieces are done. I mean, this works up really fast. Very sweet piece. So, there's different colors that you can use on flesh. Like I said, I'm going to use sugared peach, which is what I used here. And I'm going to shade it with warm beige. So I'm going to paint these with sugared peach first. And again, I already have my ankle brush out, so I'm just going with it. And I'm just going over the top of this little thing, this little guide I have already. So now my little hands aren't flying all over the place. When you're trying to do some of these smaller pieces, there's nothing to hold on to. You have to hold on to the piece. So this little wooden guide that it was cut out of really helps. Do another coat. Okay. And truth be told, I did not need to do all 4 pieces because one piece is going to be underneath, or possibly 2 pieces. So I'm just going to take those out. I'm not going to do the shading and stuff on those because it's just not necessary. Okay. So I'm going to come back with the warm beige and shade. It's a very light shade. It's not very dark at all. And I'm pretty much just going to cover all the edges. And you're not trying to be super perfect here. You're just getting that little interest going. So and you certainly could come back with like a honey brown or something if you wanted just a deeper shade. So just to show you a little bit, like if you just used a touch of the honey brown, so okay. And now we're going to come back with a little bit of dry brushing. So I have this Jo Sonja's Sure Touch dry brush, and I'm going to use a little bit of, where is it? Coral Cloud. Where are you? There we go. Coral Cloud. Man, when you live in Colorado, you have elevation, you get this all the time. You open it up and it just goes pew. So I don't know if it's something that's just elevated related, but it happens here so often. Okay, so we're just going to dry brush some little hint of color into the center of the hands, just to make them a little bit more interesting than what they were. Okay, so the hands are done. I'll put those little guys back in so I don't lose them. Okay, so since we were working on the hands, we're going to now work on the face before we start doing the dress, just because that's what we were working on already. So you can see this is going to come pretty far down. So you want to try to keep it above this line though, your demarcation line. It doesn't matter how far up you go because that's all going to be covered. Okay, sugared peach. And you'll come back with black on the eyes, so you don't need to worry if you go over the eyes. So I'm taking it up just a little bit higher than where it needs to be, just to make sure I get all my coverage. Okay, definitely needs 2 coats. I didn't want to do that. I'm using an X-Acto blade to remove some of the paint that went in that line. I like to keep that line. Some people don't, but I do. So again, it's a similar process. We'll be shading with warm beige, and you can use a little bit of honey brown too if you want. So I kind of want to know where the hair is going so I can shade underneath that. So I just hold that piece in place. Going to dry that before I move on. I'm going to reinforce this shade backwards because I don't want a line. So you come back and butt up the shade on the other side, is if you don't want this line to show once you put the crown back in place. So this is kind of a neat little trick that keeps that from happening. And I'm going to shade here at the chin as well. Bring it up. So like I said, if you wanted to introduce some honey brown, you can. I liked it on the hands. I don't want our face to look dirty, so I probably won't. And I'm going to come back with the coral cloud. And I still have plenty of that popped out. Okay, and I'm dry brushing. So with dry brushing, you take a lot of the paint off your dry brush before you come over here. So the paint is very dry what's left in the brush is very dry. So if it were wet, then you lose all kinds of control and it looks streaky. The wet paint will leave streaks, and it won't be a smooth finish like that. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, you can look and see what it looks like with this piece on. There you go. So you can do the eyes now, or you can wait and do them in a little while. I probably will wait. So we're using Aqua Sky. I guess I can close this mess up now. Okay. We're going to use Aqua Sky on the gown. Well, that's crystal blue. Let's see. Aqua Sky. Aqua Sky. So, and it's up to you how you want to do the back. On this piece, I kind of did it with all the various colors that I did on the front. So you could come back with flesh color here and do this gray if you wanted. Or you can just do this one solid color, like if you want it just to do all of it the Aqua Sky. So it does stand up, so people will look at the back. So now I'm like, I don't know what to do. I guess I could do a little of this. Most of this will be her hair, marigold, so it won't be as much of the flesh color as actually creating a little bit of hair. I'm not going to do all the shading, although I did shade. I say that and then I look, oh hey, look, I did all the shading. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. The backs of these pieces are going to show, so I will need to do the back of this. I'm not going to do the granite effect here, but I do need to do the back of this. I completely forgot. So the same with a little bit of the book shows as well. So you can see these pieces will show, and a little bit of the hand even shows. And the back side of America shows these little edges. Okay, so that was neutral gray. And like I said, I'm not going to do any shading on this, but so you can see about how much of that torch shows there. And this does not have to be perfect. It's just that it's popping up just a little bit, so you want to just do a bit of it. And same with this. It's this edge that's showing. So if you do gray along the top where the book is poking out, and then again, this is the back. So the crown starts right about here. And again, like I said, you could do the back one solid color. Like if you wanted it all to be a granite effect, you could do all the neutral gray and then do the splatter and then call it a day, because it's a statue. You don't have to make it look lifelike it on the back. Actually, that's a really clever idea. I wish I had thought of that before. before. I mean, I could go ahead and do it and, you know, not have this blue, but that's up to you. Come back with the marigold on the torch. Oops, shaking my world up here. So just do a bit of hair. Yeah, I like the granite idea. I think on the next one I make, I'm just going to do granite back here. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, Statue of Liberty has very short hair. What would be really cool is to do pigtails, but I'm not exactly sure how I would accomplish that. But pigtails would be really cool going down her back. I would like that. One of you ought to do pigtails and then post pictures in the comments so we can see what it looks like. Could do a little bun back there. Although I think a bun would be less, it'd be less understood what it was. So I like the idea of pigtails or all granite. Okay, so I'm going to take some of the honey brown and do some shading. Okay, so that's just a little bit of something something. And you don't even need to come back and do further shading or anything. You can just leave it like that. It does need 2 coats of the gray though. I wouldn't worry about coming back and shading this bit. This is the back side. It doesn't really matter. But again, I do like the idea of potentially just doing the whole back as granite. That would be cool. So the back, you would just have it all like this. That's not bad. Okay, but since I made the decision to kind of copy what's on the front, I'm going to go ahead and come in with my Aqua Sky. And you need your 2 solid coats of Aqua Sky. Base coat it in. So we're working on the back first just because we're here already. There's no reason especially why we're starting with the back. It's just, that's where I am. Aqua Sky is such a pretty color. Beautiful. Beautiful color. Okay. Dry your layers. So we are not going to highlight the back, but if you wanted to do that, you would use this crystal blue. We will shade. I think it needs a little bit of shade, so we're going to use the Laguna. So do one more round of Aqua Sky. I have to say that an angled brush is great for getting those necklines straight. Go ahead and do my shading with Laguna. So it might need to be reinforced with another round, but I'm not going to worry too much. Oops, I see I just got paint up here. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. Not exactly sure how I drug that on there. Alrighty. So it needs another round of shading, but I'm going to move to the front. Okay, so back to the Aqua Sky as your base coat. Get the bulk of the paint off before I come back up to the neckline, because I don't want a lot of goopy paint potentially getting on her skin. So one of these, I need a little bit of white paint on the back of this because it does stick out just a touch on either side, hardly any at all. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Snow White. So the pieces that I laser cut and send out, it will be Snow White that I'm using. Because like I said, I'm going to pre-paint these pieces before I cut them, so that when you come, if you were to come back with white or the top of this, if I hadn't pre-painted this before I cut it, you would lose all this lovely dimension here. So I will paint these before I cut. Okay, so I'll set that aside. Trying to think what other pieces we have. Oh yeah, so I had already painted this. This piece goes across the front like so. So while this is drying, we're going to go ahead and do some shading. And again, we're shading, well actually this is dry. Let me go ahead and just put another coat of the aqua sky back on the front. And again, remember to get most of the paint off before you come back to the neckline. Let that dry. And now, since this piece is already done, so again that's just painted in the aqua sky, and we're going to come back with the lagoon, the lagoon, and go ahead and do some shading. So this piece goes this way, so I'm going to shade up here at the top. Man, I need to change my water. I just changed it, but it's especially dirty. And I'm pretty sure, let me just make sure, yeah. So I'm using the lines as my guides for shading. Definitely is not going on super dark. Now I am going to come back with a dry brush, and I'm going to put some lighter highlights in there. So crystal blue is the one that works with aqua sky. So we're going to, see, living in the mountains, it just pops, it just pops. Yep, my paint keeps spitting up at me. Alright, I've got a pretty small Josanya oval brush here, and I just want to create a little bit more interest into the center of these stripes. I really like that on that piece. That feels like it needs it. I'm going to come back with more shading, but definitely needed that. Now, you can do this piece too, but the problem is most of it is going to be covered, but we could come back here and just do it, but you need a bigger brush for that. So I'm going to use this Lynn Andrews number 10 stippling brush. Same process. Get paint on, take paint off. It doesn't matter. Oh, this is, yeah, you can see that was an example of it being way too wet. Okay, so we're just going to kind of do this in this central area, even if a lot of it is going to be covered up, but there will be enough of it that shows. I think I still want it just a little bit lighter. Well, I got all the paint off of there. Look at that. Okay, yeah. There you go. You can see kind of a little bit like a cloud effect in the center. Okay. I've got to remember to wash all my brushes after I'm done. That is the correct color. That's the Laguna, but man, I'm guessing I may have come back with a slightly different, darker color, and I didn't actually write it in my notes because that's looking lighter than what this is. I bet I came back with like a mystic teal or oh, there's a peacock color, because this is just not quite dark enough, just slightly not dark enough. And now I'm getting a little bit of paint where I don't want it. So I am going to continue using the Laguna, and then I may come and reinforce it with a darker color, and I will write it into my notes so I know what I used, because I like to send out little patterns with your order, so you're not having to completely guess, oh, what color is this that she used, or you know, where you feel like you have to start over with your own colors because you don't have the suggested colors. So I always create notes and do a little pattern packet, even on something as simple as this. It just makes it easier on you. All right, I got that very wet and juicy. Let's see. Never can find anything when I need it. Need it to mop up some of that excess water. All right. We need a slightly darker color here. Let's see what we've got. So desert turquoise, that's kind of the wrong shade. Let me see, this is that peacock teal. See, that might be what I used in the end. Peacock teal. Shade it with Laguna, say my notes, but that looks like I went darker. I'm going to put peacock teal here so I don't forget. All right, I'm running out of space here. Oh yeah, I think that's what I needed, folks. Okay. Oh yes, 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 yes. Peacock teal. So you can shade with both Laguna and then come back with peacock teal. It creates, when you use two colors for shading, it creates a layer of color. So it's not like you're losing what you already did. You're just enhancing the shading by layering the colors. So, or if you don't want to do that, just do peacock teal, because the Laguna just is not dark enough on its own. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, now it looks like it actually has a shade. I'll come back and reinforce some of that, but I'm going to use the peacock teal now on this piece. Yes, I am running out of space on my palette paper here. And since I already have some shade, I don't necessarily have to go heavy where I was, because I've already got some shade down already with the other. Oh, that's so much better. Yeah. Big difference. Okay. Me likey. I'm going to turn it over and just go back and add a little bit of that peacock teal in there. Even if it is just, you know, for the back. Still nice to have a little bit of reinforcement of the shade. Clearly I used the peacock teal when I did this one, but I'm not exactly sure why it didn't get in my notes. Ta-da-ta-da. I am happy with that. That is much, much better, much better, much better. So, okay, now I'm trying to see what we're missing. I don't think we are missing anything. Famous last words, right? Okay. So there she is. And then this piece starts from the top and lines up. So don't try to do it like that. It actually starts up here. And her crown goes on her head. Oh yeah, we have to do the eyes. And this piece goes like so. This piece goes here, somewhere thereabouts. And because of the soot of the laser, even when you clean it off with a baby wipe, you might still get a little bit of brown in there. It kind of gives it a distressed look. But if that bugs you a lot, you know, you can try to dry brush over with more white over the top. But keep in mind you might lose some of the details of your word. So that's your choice. Okay. And so this piece goes right about here. And it will stay in place when it's glued. And then you put your little hands in place, top, and then you need one there probably. Although that's sitting there pretty good. Might not need it. Okay, so you glue those pieces together, and I think that is us done except for our eyes. Now, with the eyes, you can use paint. You can use a permanent marker. Let's see. So there's lots of different kinds of permanent markers out there. This is a real inexpensive one, Shuttle Art permanent marker. You can get like, I don't know, 20 of them for, I can't remember how much I paid. They're very inexpensive. So, a piece of paper to write on. Okay. Got to get this going. Okay. So again, you can use paint. Just come in here with a stylus or whatever, or you can use a marker. It probably looks better with paint than doing it with the marker, but yeah, I think I would like to do it with paint because of the engraved bits of the eyes, it's not really settling in there correctly. So let me get a little bit of black paint, some lamp black. Okay, that's soft black. Yep, you're going to be difficult and not have it handy. Let's see, lamp black, where are you? Okay, this one hasn't been opened. Okay. All right. So you can try to use a stylus or a paintbrush. Let's see if I use my stylus here. I'm still not liking how it's working with the engraved lines. So basically you have to just find whichever technique is going to work for you. So you can overcome the engraved bits of the line that's trying to trap the paint. Okay. And I'm also having a brush malfunction here too. I've got hairs of the brush that are poking in every direction. Okay. God, that just didn't work out very well. Okay, so when that dries, you want to come back with just a couple of little dabs of white into the eyes to finish them. You don't want to do it when your eyes are wet. So there you go. Pretty much everything on this is done except for the whites of the eyes. And I don't want to mess up the eyes there. So like that, like that, that. And then we got our hands. So this will go up further. So your hands will be pretty much level across, but I have to glue this. When you glue it, you kind of have to hold it for a little while in place. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you had fun watching some of my silliness, and that maybe you got a little bit out of it. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm Kathy McAllister of Teawife Creations, www.teawife.com. That's TEAWIFE.com, like a wife who drinks tea. So again, thanks for coming to watch me play, and I'll catch you the next time. Bye.